What is a hero? Well, Webster's dictionary defines a hero as a mythological or a legendary figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability. Well, I want to sort of hone in on that last clause, endowed with great strength or ability. Each of us develop different sets of strengths and weaknesses. Babies in general tend to look very similar in that they are usually about the same length, they're about the same height, they are about the same weight. All of their strengths and their weaknesses are bundled up inside them, and most of their life, because they were just born, their entire life exists in potentiality. And the reason why each baby, each birth is such a miracle is because we don't know what this baby is going to bring into the world over the course of their life. They may end up being the next Winston Churchill, or the next Ralph Waldo Emerson, or the next LeBron, or the next Derek Jeter. I mean, we don't know what they're going to become, and that's sacred to us. I think that sort of is one of the reasons that this whole debate about abortion is such a big discussion in the political realm, because it is a huge choice to make the decision to take this potential that just became something and take that from us collectively. So I think that there's no doubt that we all do have those strengths and weaknesses, but anybody that knows anything about skill development knows that those strengths and abilities must be nurtured and worked on to be able to grow into some great strength or some great ability. And I mean, so let's just think about it. Let's just take a couple of examples. I mean, just because you're naturally tall and athletic doesn't mean you're going to grow up to be the next LeBron James. That takes years of hard work. He took his natural abilities and gifts and then leveraged them to the greatest degree possible. I mean, how many people did you go to school with who were naturally tall and athletic? Well, how many of them are now professional athletes? I would imagine a very small number. I mean, I know personally that I went to school with a number of people that could have absolutely played at the next level in multiple sports, but they didn't walk the path that's required to be able to get there. They didn't put the amount of hours in. They didn't spend the amount of time focusing and working, and now they are not living that life. And so for another example, just because you have a naturally high IQ doesn't mean you're going to grow up to be the next Jeff Bezos. I mean, that takes years of hard work. He took his natural abilities and gifts and then leveraged them to create the most successful online retail store in history. How many people did you go to school with who were naturally gifted intellectually, and how many of them are now tech billionaires? I mean, I would imagine very few. Or how about in the artistic realm? Just because you're naturally a wonderful singer who is very beautiful doesn't mean you're going to grow up to be the next Beyonce. That takes years of hard work. She took her natural abilities and leveraged them to become a modern cultural icon. How many people did you go to school with who were naturally very beautiful with great voices? I would imagine there were a handful. So how many of those are now famous musicians? Probably very few. So it seems to me that great strengths and abilities are not so much endowed as they are developed through years of hard work, which in my opinion should be wonderfully encouraging, because it means you can develop the strengths and abilities that come natural to you in order to become your very own version of a hero. And we've got to remember that the status of legendary and mythological, that always comes after the achievements have been earned, after the skills have been developed, and usually after the person has died. So I think that according to our definition, a mythological or legendary figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or abilities, well, I think we can say, hey, any of us that makes that choice can develop great strengths and abilities. And this concept of divine descent is something else that I think is really interesting, because there are schools of thought that I think hold a lot of merit that say, hey, we're all divine, descents of the divine. You know, I think that at the core of the Christian doctrine, that's exactly what it's saying. You know, how do you get to heaven? Well, you get to heaven by asking Jesus into your heart. And I don't think that any of us believe that we're asking some 2,000-year-old Jewish man to shrink down and go live in our ventricles. You know, it's not a literal. It's not something that's literal. It's a metaphor, and it's saying, hey, you get to go to heaven when you recognize that you are divine, that you have a piece of divinity in you. And I think that there's a lot more to discuss there that we're going to sort of leave alone for right now. But I don't think that excludes anyone from the ability to become a hero. I think that you can become a mythological or legendary figure after your works and your have been done and your abilities have been developed, and also after you realize, man, I am divinely descended, and I believe that.